All right, welcome to another First Impressions. One of my favorite things to do, of course, is to do this unboxing ad tech video to walk through and learn what some companies are up to. And today we've got Peter from GumGum, and GumGum's like one of these companies I've like watched evolve over the last number of years. They're just always you're making moves, Peter. Can you talk about where GumGum is today, and then let's talk about some of the things that you're trying to solve for publishers and for your advertisers, the buy side.
Yeah, sure thing. First and foremost, thanks for having me. So look, GumGum has been around since 2008. So yeah, there's been some serious moves over that time. The world has changed, the digital ecosystem has changed, and GumGum has changed a heck of a lot in that time. So do you know what sort of way back when GumGum would have probably been known as an in-image creative provider? But I think more and more as time has gone on and the world has evolved and things like privacy legislation has really come to the forefront, aspects of our technology has really started to be the driving force behind the business. So really now we're playing ourselves off as a business which is focused definitely at contextual, still very much with a creative angle in what we do, and then also underpinned more and more around this idea of attention-based measurement, which is something that you'll talk to one of my colleagues about in the not too distant future.
That sounds great. And also, again, I think the other part is with GumGum is the growth. You're a global company. You're doing a lot around the world and so forth. So yeah, let's talk about that context and let's talk about some of the things that you're trying to solve. I think you've got some visuals to kind of help drive that conversation forward.
I do indeed. Let me share those for you. So this is what our business is built off today, or what we're trying to solve for, if you like. So as I mentioned just before, the world has evolved and the digital ecosystem has changed dramatically, driven by a number of driving forces. So the first one that I really think about is privacy concerns. So when I joined digital many, many moons ago, I must add, we could track however we wanted. Actually, do you know what, tracking didn't really exist at that point, but we could target how we could target, but sort of targeting evolved, and we were talking about behavioral, we were talking about using cookie-based data, using PII and ways that we saw fit. But do you know what, legislation has changed, consumer knowledge around privacy has changed, and therefore the industry has had to change around what is acceptable in terms of targeting. So privacy concerns have driven huge amounts of evolution in the industry. And that's really where the contextual element of our business sort of comes to the forefront. 10,000 ads a day. This is a stat that comes through from Mark Pritchard. So an assumption that you can be exposed to up to 10,000 ads on a daily basis. Now, you can't possibly pay attention to 10,000 ads. And the argument being that should we be exposed to 10,000 ads? Is that a good consumer experience? I'd argue not. And then the other piece is irrelevant advertising. So we need to drive advertising that clearly shows value exchange. And if you're driving or delivering irrelevant advertising to a consumer, then they're not going to see this element of value exchange. There needs to be a reason why we are funding premium content through advertising, and actually through understanding and solving for these issues that we see in the market. You're going to drive more acceptance for advertising from the consumer, and there's going to be a better output for everybody.
Yeah, it's a key thing that I'm focused on, which is this balance of, for your consumers, for the users of your website, your audience, whatever term you want to use, and delivering for your clients on the advertising side. All of these things go in, and relevant ads really do help make some of those issues go away. To your point about frequency, we can't over deliver. Like overall, you might get over delivered over the course of your life, right? But you don't have to be from your website. You can just need to be smart and do that, and at the same time make it stand out and be trustworthy. I mean, these are a lot of things to sit there and try to solve for, but I think that's at the heart of what most publishers are trying to do today.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it's a challenging environment, I think, to try and navigate. You need to do what's right for the publisher, you need to do what's right for the consumer, you need to do what's right for the advertiser. Again, it should be this sort of universe where everybody is getting an equal share of the value as an output. There needs to be good performance from an advertiser, they need to see a business outcome. There needs to be appropriate remuneration for a publisher, and the consumer needs to appreciate that they're reading quality press, but they also need to understand, again, there's this value exchange, that they're getting access to that content free of charge, but they're also being delivered quality creative executions that they don't resent and doesn't change the user experience.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. That makes sense. So how's GumGum approaching this? How are you thinking about it?
So where this takes us to is a concept that we've developed called the mindset matrix. And I touched upon this a little bit earlier, but we're trying to bring together these three core concepts that we think solve for those challenges that we see in market today. But I also have a fundamental belief that the way that we can deliver this idea of the mindset matrix in the future also means that there is longevity to the approach that we're taking. So if you think about contextual, it doesn't use any form of user data in order to deliver scalable, targeted advertising. And if you think about the way that legislation is changing over time, contextual should always be compliant. And the research that we've done suggests that there's also a level of acceptance from a consumer that technology can read the content that they're consuming at that very moment in time. And therefore the consumer is accepting of the fact that the contextual is okay. And contextual could be this binding force between multiple devices. So, we're obviously talking about sort of standard digital environments, and we talk about desktop, we talk about mobile, but more and more we think about CTV, we think about the metaverse, we think about other digital environments where contextual again can be this binding factor and this continual scalable privacy compliant targeting methodology. So I'm really excited about that and how it brings everything together. Then creative being the next portion of what we talk about in the mindset matrix. So creative, to our knowledge, to our research, drives upwards of 50% of the value or the success of a campaign. You need to get creative right if you're going to be successful. So I think it's great that advertisers and publishers alike are thinking more about creative delivery and how that drives change. So it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all type scenario. We know that more and more that standard IAB formats don't typically drive change in consumer outlook. Not many people pay attention to a standard IAB format. I would challenge anybody who watches this to go, oh, that was a beautiful 300 by 250 that I saw, beautiful 7:8 by 90. Just doesn't happen. And if you can academically take that from your own browsing experience and apply that to the thought of delivering an advertising campaign, why would you assume that standard IAB formats are driving change to the consumer? They're not, and research proves that this is the case.
And yeah,
then
I think that commoditization of our ad units, right, has helped ad tech, has not helped our advertisers or our users connect, right? In other words, we've come up with a very efficient way to deliver advertising.
Yeah,
and
like 100%.
Right. In one way, advertising should always be, somewhat bending that so that you get noticed, right? You get the attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And this does come into the last piece around attention, that advertisers have been chasing the wrong metrics for so many years. We talk about CTR still a hell of a lot as an industry. And we're suggesting that a 1% CTR is deemed successful. And then all of a sudden, you're not placing any value on 99% of your media, which isn't clicked on. So, if you're just deeming success on a click, just go and buy on a CPC. But people don't do that because they know that the quality of the clicks aren't good. We need to evolve and change the way that we're measuring sort of the lower funnel, the chase for the last impression sort of approach. That can't be how we operate as an industry moving forward. And that's really where this attention piece comes into play. It's going to be super important. And as I mentioned, my colleague Ben at Playground XYZ will come and talk to you guys a little bit more about this in an opti-distant.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
But look, what I really wanted to focus on at the moment is the contextual element of what we talk about as an industry. So contextual has seen a huge resurgence over the last, certainly sort of 18 months, 2 years, as privacy compliance again has come to the forefront. Advertisers, tech businesses, publishers are starting to understand, starting to try and identify, how do I create a targeted, scalable approach in market moving forward? Now, contextual is I'd argue, very easy to understand targeting methodology. And it's something that's crept up in many, many different pockets over the last 2 years. Everybody seems to have a contextual solution, which, I mean, has been amazing for growing the profile of the space. But what I think has become more challenging as a result is to try and identify what is good contextual versus bad contextual. Now, what I've got here on the screen is an example of how our contextual intelligence platform, Verity, scans and understands a piece of content. Now, contextual, certainly when I first joined the industry, was looking at individual keywords, or it would look even just at the domain level and it would go, right, it's a recipes website, so it's only about food content. It's a news website, it's only about news. Now let's just talk about news as a general concept. That's such a broad spectrum of content that you could be targeting against. You know, on a news website, you've got sports, you've got lifestyle, you've got male and female lifestyle, you've got fashion, you've got different types of news content. Is it positive? Is it negative news content? There's so many different pieces of content and different understandings that you need to take, that just taking that very broad level understanding of contextual is really not appropriate for this day and age. So the way that Verity goes into much more detail is using a combination of two artificial intelligence techniques to scan and take a human level understanding of content. So what you can see here is Verity using natural language processing. So that's the ability to scan and understand text, and it's understanding, you know, is it positive, is it neutral, is it negative content? In this instance, it's clearly about a recipes page. But, you know, again, it's going deeper and deeper and deeper. One of the big challenges that the industry has at the moment is that we're still working with rather antiquated contextual methodologies. That's both for targeting and also for brand safety. And of course, within the publisher realms, this is a massive, massive challenge. If you end up with over blocking of content because you're utilizing poor contextual technology, your ability to monetize your content gets reduced. So, you know, let's just take the example of the term killer key lime pie, which is, you know, a wonderful recipe, but it has the word killer in there. Now, of course, it's a recipe for, you know, killer key lime pie. It should be a brand safe piece of content, but hard blocking of keywords like the word killer, yes, of course, the majority of content that terms the word utilizes the word killer is going to be non-safe. But we need to utilize more intelligent contextual analysis to start opening up that type of content. So again, natural language processing has the ability to do that. The other element of AI that we're applying here is computer vision, image recognition. So there's a heck of a lot of imagery that might appear on publishers' websites. So again, how do you monetize galleries? How do you start to monetize broader pieces of content? Now, using things like computer vision can start to open up that type of content, and it can then be applied for brand safety and also targeting. That combination of AI technology then also allows us to take a broader view on different media types. So, you know, do we want to look at CTV? Do we want to look at digital video content? Actually, the application of contextual is so much broader than a flat web page, and it's really exciting. And the one thing that we're extremely proud of is that we are the only independent ad tech vendor that's MRC accredited for content level verification. So for us, that's a big rubber stamp on our technology going, you know, this is brilliant contextual. So we're very proud of that.
Yeah, I'm excited about moving the conversation about contextual beyond that kind of blocking level. It's, again, to your point, it's going to allow publishers to really start to not just, again, think about their advertising, but think about how they create content to get that contextual richness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, you know, like, in other words, do I have editors who are worried about using the word killer or stopping to use words that might, you know, like trigger a brand safety thing, when what I really want is I want to just sit there and go like, that's how good this is, right? Like, so I think you're absolutely right. Like, that there's an aspect, and it's amazing your technology does that. So how does that play out in terms of the creatives and some of the other things that you're able to do?
Yeah, so for us, from a creative standpoint, again, going back to the idea of the mindset matrix, we're really trying to drive relevance for that user. So how can I start to combine this idea of contextual understanding? So the moment that a user is in at that very minute in time, or that piece of content that they're reviewing, should align with the creative. So, I bring both of those things together. All of a sudden, I'm creating a campaign that's going to resonate so much more with an individual. If you think about some behavioral targeting as an example, it might be that data point is 30 days old. And actually my mindset and the things that I'm interested in 30 days ago, I definitely may not be relevant for what I'm looking at or what I'm interested in at that very moment in time. My argument is always that, as time has gone on, as we're involved in more devices, actually users are more and more in micro moments. So the way that you browse, the way that you consume content, it's so much more bite-sized than it used to be. And therefore not that I'm scatty-brained, but you do think of different things. And in the morning, I'm definitely in a different mindset when I'm taking the kids to school versus 3 o'clock in the afternoon and we're getting towards the end of the workday. We need to be cognizant of the user at that moment in time. And if you're not going to win out. We can't use data points that are too old. We need to really be in the moment. And we've got a lot of research, again, that suggests that targeting based on mindset and targeting based on that moment really drives change. Now, to go into a little bit more around this idea of creative, for us, it is that combination of contextual with creativity, and different types of creative, different types of messaging, different types of understanding of who you're trying to target and what you're trying to achieve really starts to define how you can utilize creative. Now, I think that as an industry, we've really come to the point where we've accepted that creative is fundamentally, centrally important to driving a better outcome for a campaign. So for us, it's about standout, beautiful creative executions that are unique based on the advertiser's requirements and delivering them to the user in a way that we believe drives a value exchange. So we're not trying to overlay across the content. We're not trying to take away from the user experience within a publisher. But actually what we're trying to deliver, again, is this value exchange between user experience on the publisher. We're trying to remunerate publishers in what we think is an acceptable fashion and making sure that, again, we are funding quality content. And then then value exchange for the advertiser in that they're driving the outcome they need. And as I mentioned before, there are a variety of different ways that we can utilize creativity in order to drive those types of outcomes. And look, what I've got here is just a few different examples of what we've done as a business for a few brands. And then thinking about the way in which they drive different outcomes or different behaviors from users based on the exposure that they're having. So vitally important from a creative standpoint, but vitally important that we're not just delivering creative for the sake of it, but combining it with contextual understanding and unique data points.
It's great to see all of that coming together. It's great to see.
Yeah, totally. And look, I touched upon this a little bit earlier, but mindset is one of the most pivotal things to tap into in order to drive change. So this is one of the research studies that we've done as a business to understand actually this being in the video space, what changes based on delivering creative or advertising based on the mindset of the user. And what you can actually see here is that it really drives action. And we predominantly focus on top, middle of funnel as a business. And one of the challenges that I think that as a legacy, and I think this has changed a lot over the last couple of years, but one of the challenges that we've had is that how do you convince advertisers that working in top, middle of funnel drives consumer action? And we've been working tirelessly to make sure that we can start showcasing data points that highlight the fact that you work into that top, middle of funnel, you drive users down and you do get better outputs. And we can showcase here, and we can showcase in other research studies, that we do drive better search intent, that we drive better recommendation intent. There's lots and lots of different data points that showcase that creative plus contextual, therefore buying into or tying into the consumer mindset, drives increased levels of attention, which we know then subsequently drives increased levels of consumer action. So all of those things combined, advertisers and publishers should be really chomping at the bit to get involved in this space.
Yeah, and so to that, and that's that kind of call to action, right? So to me, I think this is really important from the publisher side is to again, think through that mindset. I think that's a really great way to frame the way we need to think of the consumer experience and turn that into how we read our pages, how our pages are presented, and then of course the advertising that goes with it that adds some creativity to it and really kind of connects in whatever mindset that they are in. If a publisher wants to learn more, I'm assuming the study is on the GumGum website. Would that be
It
correct?
sure is. So it's there ready to download for anybody who'd like to read more. Along with some other studies that talk to, the level of accuracy that we have for our contextual products, through to, some great case studies from a variety of FTSE 100 brands.
Great. And if someone wanted to reach out, what is your recommendation? Should they reach out to you, or is there an email address or something like that to go to?
So you're welcome to reach out to me. You can get a hold of me at peter@gumgum.com, and I am very happy to help whatever anybody might need.
Peter, thank you so much for taking the time of walking through this. I really enjoyed the your framing of it, and yeah, good luck in 2023. And I'm sure some publishers will definitely react to this. So thank you so much.